And I basically, bought a property for 70 grand, spent 7 grand on it. It was only a flat, and then refinanced for 100. And then that was my kind of kickstart.
I think that level of commitment, you've got to have some element of that, particularly as a youngster, because in a way, the odds are stacked against you.
Because at that time, before I did start reading books and educating myself and stuff like that, I thought the way to it was work as hard as you physically can.
And I literally opened the book expecting it to tell me how to become a millionaire overnight. And it turns out that it takes 50 years to do it.
Yeah.
Are you hands-on with the refurbs then yourself?
No, not really. I was when I say hands-on, I can't even put a screw in a wall, to be honest. Another thing, a big advice to myself, is put myself out there more.
Welcome to episode 8 of the Property Developer Show, the podcast. Today, I'm joined by a fellow podcaster, Callum Brennan, also property developer, investor, and I think all-round business entrepreneur, really. Callum, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, mate. How's things?
Oh, good, mate. Really good. Thank you.
Good. Obviously,
you've got Hustlin With Houses,
yes,
which is of the same ilk of the Property Developer Show, the podcast.
Most definitely.
But from I suppose, Calum perspective, because I mean, obviously most of the people that have got you on social media, they kind of know you as Hustling With Houses. But I suppose, behind that, the journey, I guess, that you've been on, obviously from being so young in property, buying your first property, and then obviously your experience prior to that. So to give, I suppose, the listeners an insight to who Calum really is, obviously outside of the podcast, who is Calum?
So I am... Do you want me to go back to the start, or?
Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah, it's always good to get the journey in a bit of depth to.
Most definitely. Well, say when I turned sort of 80, I've always knew I wanted to be in property since maybe 10, 11, literally. I knew because my mum and dad, like my dad's a window cleaner, my mum worked in like the tills and Asda. And I remember they bought a house and they bought it for like 10,000. This when I was really young. And they bought a house for like £10,000. And I remember they spent like, maybe 10,000. This was like 2001. This was years ago. Spent like 10,000 on it. And they sold it like 12 months later for £90,000. And that always stuck in my head. And I always remember thinking, wow, like that is the way. That's got to be the way. Even at like 10, 11, 12, young. And obviously all rich people are kind of involved in property in some way. So it always made sense for me. And I thought the way was a estate agency. So I went to college, done like a plumbing course, which was fucking pointless, to be honest. Like we all do, to be honest.
Yeah.
And worked in a factory. I'd done everything, worked in a factory and whatever. And I finally landed an estate agency job. And I'd done that for like 4 years. And within that, whilst I was in there, I was buying a couple of properties. So I bought. So I was always a good saver, which I think is a massive thing when you're quite young. And I basically, bought a property for 70 grand, spent 7 grand on it. It was only a flat, and then refinanced for 100. And then that was my kind of kickstart. And with working in an estate agency, I did learn a hell of a lot in there. And I'd recommend to anyone, if they're young and just starting, it is a good way to get into property and learn the sort of basics and learn comparables and stuff like that. So that was my sort of start, really. But like before that, when I was 16, 17, 18, I've always worked, but maybe in a factory or helped my dad on the windows or whatever. So I've always sort of grinded it out, really. And then when I got to like 19, I worked in an estate agency. Terrible wage, by the way, as everyone probably knows. And then you get good commission and stuff. And it just, for me, I would have worked in there for free just because I love property, and it was a learning thing for me. And I learned a hell of a lot in there.
I think that's the key to it. I mean, I've alluded to it before in another episode that I read when I was young. I was the same as you. I sort of fell into property as an 18-year-old working for another developer. Worked as an apprentice. I was just basically £3.30 an hour, cheap labour. It was just the dog's body, basically. But I fell in love with the game, so to speak, or whatever you want to refer to it as. And obviously got into the books. I literally remember sitting at my laptop or whatever it was, computer, and typing how to become a millionaire. And like the thing that pops up is like savings, invest it, compound it, you know, live below your means, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And then I remember picking up this Tony Robbins book. It was like how to become financially free forever or some shit like that. And I literally opened the book expecting it to tell me how to become a millionaire overnight. And it turns out that it takes fucking 50 years to do it.
Yeah. Mate, you know what's so funny about that? I remember when I first bought my first self-development book, and I honestly thought I was going to be rich off it. Like I think it was T. Harv Eker's some book, and I honestly thought I had the secret to wealth. Like when I bought that book, I just thought this is gonna
millionaire mindset.
Yeah, it was an amazing book, by the way, and I'm all for books, but yeah, there's a lot more than just books, isn't there?
Yeah.
To do it, but yeah.
There's the actual action of reading the book and then going to implement it.
100%, 100%. And I think this might take on a wrong term, but on books for me as well, I think I've read like so many books, and some of them I've read from start to finish, and then at the end been like, what the fuck was that even about? And then years later, I've had experience and then realised, oh my God, that's what that book was saying. And I think you need experience sometimes to apply the things in the book, if that makes sense. That's what I kind of think anyway.
Yeah, I get that. But I think it depends. So I've read a good book called Traction. I read that years ago, and I think I didn't quite understand all the moving parts to it. And then I read it 2 years ago, and I was like, holy crap, like this has got a completely different meaning now. But obviously during that time, you've evolved as a person. You know, your perspective is different. You've got different lessons, all that sort of stuff. And it kind of all pushes you. You've got to be in the right place to receive that information. You know, you've got to understand it. And I always say that to people that, you know, I had an apprentice in my former business, and I always used to say to him, look, I'm going to say all this stuff to you, because I mean, he'll go on to be very successful. He was very similar mindset to me when I was his age, and obviously it's amazing to see, and he's always asking me questions and stuff. And I always say, look, I'm going to say loads of shit. Some of it you're going to be like, I don't know what the fuck that means. And then other bits you're going to be like, oh, that resonates with me. And you'll take those bits and then you'll do something with it. Or you might come back to me having a different conversation about something else, and I'll say the same thing that I've been saying to you for the last 2 years, but then you'll see it in a different way and you're like, oh shit.
That's exactly it. Yeah, 100%.
No, it's class. So I think obviously this podcast, we've only got probably 45 minutes, but I'm sure we're going to be sitting here afterwards and talking a load more. But from a property perspective, what did the first deal look like for you?
The first deal for me was sort of, it was a 1-bed flat in Oxton, which is an area which is very old buildings, high ceilings, all that kind of stuff. So I knew instantly that I could have added another bedroom. I don't know how many people were thinking like this, but I just knew instantly there were massive rooms. There was quite a big kitchen in there, and I knew. It was just, again, the comparables. I knew 2 beds were getting maybe 120, 130. 1 beds were getting nowhere near that. So I just thought it only made sense to turn it into a 2-bed. So that's what I did. And it didn't cost me much at all. The refurb must have honestly cost me about 7-8 grand, literally nothing. Not like they do now, but there was no plastering. And I think flats are a really good way to sort of get into it as well, because they're quite cheap. I think they're not as many people want them. People can be scared by them. So yeah, it was £70,000. Again, knew it was a deal. It was on for about 100, and it slowly was going down and down and down and down. And then I managed to grab it for 70, spent the 7 on it, refinanced it 6 months later for 100 grand. And that property today is worth 140.
Nice.
So, and that was only 2020. So yeah, that's how that first one started, and that just gave me the kickstart to go again. I remember saying to my family, like, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get another one. And they were just like, what the fuck are you talking about, mate? Like, calm down. But now they're on board and stuff, and they're just like, yeah, like it's hard with your family, isn't it? If they're not business minded, or they don't understand how it can work and stuff like that. But that's how that first one started, and then after that I got a flip, because I was quite conscious of sort of leaving me money in deals and stuff like that. And then I got a flip after that again. Amazing deal. These first 2 deals were great. The second deal I bought for 90. Again, another flat in Oxton. I love that part of Oxton. Spent maybe 8 grand on it, maybe. Again, not much needed. And I've sold that for 152. So that a belter, an absolute belter. That's my best one I've ever done, to be honest.
Nice.
To be fair, I did catch I caught the boom, if you like. But still, it was in a boom And I still spotted that deal at the time, and then caught the back end of the boom, if you like, and then sold it. And that was the highest one that sold in that road. I was expecting 130, and then got 152. So that was amazing. That's led me on to what I'm doing now, and I'm thankful for it. Like,
it's mad that sort of, I bought one in 21 I bought a 2-bed for 55,000. I turned it into a 3-bed, moved the bathroom downstairs into the outhouse, spent probably 35, 40. It was a reasonably decent size refurb, and sold that 2 months, fucking hell, that'd have been nice. Sold it probably about 12 months later for 127 and a half we got in the end for that.
Jesus.
And that was just because we bought it like just as we were kind of coming out of lockdown. People were kind of starting to get back into things. I think it was on the market, so it wasn't right move. It was one of those like quirky deals, had to final bid, that sort of stuff. I put together this great like offer, got the property, and then during that time, it was meant to be a buy-to-let. We were never going to flip it. That was never what we were deciding to do with it. The property price just went went mental.
Yeah.
And then we were like, right, let's just stick it on 125, see what we can get, and ended up bidding more for it. So
happy days, mate.
Madness. I can't say there was any strategic sort of purchase in there. I didn't think the market was going to magically go up. It was just pure luck, but you create your own luck with them situations.
100%. I'm still blagging myself that it was a strategic one, but no, I was expecting, like I say, 130, and then the market probably give me maybe 20 grand, but yeah, very lucky, but also, like you say, it's you create your own luck, don't you?
100%. So going back to the first property deal then, because obviously you're 21 at the time.
I was 21 at the time. And again, I was working in factory. I was just working like a dog, literally just before I had the estate agency job. I remember coming out of school, and I remember I picked a plumbing course that was like 2 days a week, knowing I could work with my brother for the other days and my dad for the other days, and then get a factory job and just work. Because at that time, before I did start reading books and educating myself and stuff like that, I thought the way to it was work as hard as you physically can, but working a 9 to 5, just work all the hours you physically can. So that's what I did. And I managed to save like maybe 14, 15 grand, which was a lot of money for me at the time, and even people around me. So, and then the opportunity arose with the house, the flat, sorry. And I just bought it, and that was that. But yeah, like I say, I made sure I'd done a plumbing course, which was literally 2 days a week. So the other days I could just literally work. And then on the Saturdays and Sundays, I worked in levers, just 12 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, getting like £200 for both days. So that's how I managed to save the money. And that was that, really.
I think that's the way that your journey, for particularly in the early days, like I think if you're looking to have that property success or any success, whether it's property or, whatever you want to go into, I think that level of commitment, you've got to have some element of that, particularly as a youngster, because in a way, the odds are stacked against you. You've got no money, usually. You've got a standing start, you've got no experience, you've got no contacts. The odds of achieving anything within your 20 or early 20s for sure is pretty difficult unless you've got that ability to go, right, I'm just working my bollocks off.
That's it.
And I know what I want is to buy a property. And I think we're very similar in that sort of sense, that was exactly the same as my sort of journey. I was working 3 different jobs. I was trying to run different businesses, nothing exciting. Like I was cutting people's grass on the weekend. Then I was doing like photo booths for someone else at weddings. And then I was working Monday to Friday. Then I was doing EPCs at night. And I'm surprised my missus even stayed with me during that time. It's like 80, 90 hours a week, but it was for the bigger purpose. It was to buy property and be in business and do that sort of stuff. And I think you've got to have that level of commitment, particularly in the early days. Do you know what? Whether you're 20 or 40, it's the same level of commitment. Obviously, when you're 40, you might have different resources and contacts and what have you, but it's certainly not an easy journey. And there's got to be that level of work ethic that you've put in. So credit to you, mate. Yeah,
most definitely. I agree. And I was just laughing as you were saying that then when you were saying some of the jobs you were doing. Some of the jobs I was doing, mate, were hilarious. Like I was doing anything to get money, literally anything. I was working in the factory. I was doing the... working with my dad, working with whoever. I was even an extra like working as an extra, like actors have extras. I was doing that for an agency. Literally, I'd be working in the factory and then go and doing. I remember I was like a bellboy once in like some mad film with just like literally just walking past with like a trolley.
Mate, we're going to have to find that. For
honest
YouTube.
to God. And I literally used to do anything, to be fair, which is quite it's not embarrassing. It's hard working, but just looking back, I only just thought that then I was like, Jesus, some of the stuff I did for, just to make a quick buck, like, but then I think once you do that and you work hard and you work hard and you work hard, opportunities arise, don't they? And it's like, obviously you've still got to spot the opportunities, which is hard in itself.
Absolutely.
Because I look back sometimes and think, how the fucking hell did I miss that opportunity? But you're not thinking straight at the time. But I think the harder you work, the more opportunities fall your way. 100%.
100%. Is it? I think it's richest man in Babylon. I think they say goddess of good luck favors men that
100%. Yeah.
I'm sure someone on TikTok will correct me the perfect phrase.
Yeah.
But along those lines, basically, you create your own luck, which is obviously what we've alluded to a few times on this podcast. And
definitely.
I think you've got to open doors to find opportunities.
Yeah.
And some of the maddest opportunities that I've had have just come from like pure luck, like the show, a certain amount of luck that came into that. Yeah. Visited a local expo, thought this was a great business, checked what was out there for property developers, nothing. Perfect.
Done, yeah.
So, but opportunities is everywhere for those that are looking for it and are ready for it as well. So I think before we started recording, you mentioned that you've just recently, well, I say recently, you sold a business, not necessarily recently, but then you've obviously just bought a new business.
Yeah, so basically to go back to it, I was working in the estate agency again, being a Del Boy sort of character. I basically was working in the estate agents and a lot of people were ringing up and say, I knew at this point, I knew the estate agents was just a stepping stone. And I knew at that point I'd learned everything I needed to sort of learn in there, which was comparables, how conveyancing works, how to deal with people, because, it's a sales job, obviously, at the end of the day. So I learned a lot of sales and stuff like that, which was amazing. And I didn't want to progress any higher. I didn't want to do a manager role. I weren't interested in any of that. They were offering, do you want to do the volume role? No, not interested at all. So I knew I'd sort of outgrown it to the point where I was. So I was always, since I was a young kid, I've been thinking of businesses. What's a good business? What's a good business? And like I say, I've sold t-shirts. I've done loads of little things, but couldn't think of anything that was actually worthwhile doing. And then whilst I was working in the estate agents, I remember getting a lot of calls saying, do you recommend any sort of movers when we're moving house? And I was like, no, we don't actually. And then I kept thinking, get calls constantly. And then I started like checking out the competitors in the area and thought, these aren't doing social media there. These aren't doing things. Just things like as a younger person would naturally think, these aren't doing social media. I can do this better. And obviously when you've not had a business before, you think everything's super easy, don't you?
Yeah.
So what did I do? I went and created a moving business off the back of it. Said to obviously all the estate agents I work for, all the other officers, any you give us, I'll give you a drop. So, whatever we make sort of thing, we'll sort you out. So I created a moving business from that, got on the social medias, like done everything that I said I was going to do. And then sort of business hits you in the face, doesn't it? And it's like, oh my God, right, this is why they're not doing social media, because whatever. So I've done that and I grew it all right. I've done quite well from it. I was still in because I was always concerned about mortgages in the back of my head. I stayed in the estate agency and I went part-time and I built it like that and I had lads sort of running it for me. And it did go, it went okay. Not as well as I'd like it to go. And I'd done that for maybe 3 years, learned a lot, didn't make an awful lot of money from it, done okay. Like some weeks we'd go out and we'd be in Scotland one day, London the next day, and you could do like a 10 grand week, but the profit was so low.
Yeah.
But when you don't understand that and you're just turning money, you're thinking, oh my God, we're turning money, but obviously profit's the bottom line, isn't the main thing. So it's all good turning money, but if you're not making any profit, it's half pointless, and there's no point in it. So we then basically sold the business to a local mover who was interested in it. I didn't know if it was sellable or not, but he was interested and he bought it because we had quite good review. We had a decent little business, so we sold it. And recently, I knew the sort of money a window cleaner makes, because my dad's a window cleaner. So I knew a guy who was selling around. So I was sort of doing obviously I've always been doing the property alongside it. Whatever I've done, if I was in the estate agency, property, moving company, property. So my dad's a window cleaner and a guy was selling around. So I ended up buying that. So I'm in the process now of obviously building that whilst doing the property thing. But the property thing is really starting to take off now. So it's hard to balance the both, but I do think you need a cash flowing business whilst in property, whether that be in property sourcing. That's my opinion anyway. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Absolutely. I mean, I always allude to this on the podcast. I probably talk about it too much, to be honest, but it's vital and it touches on that point. You know, you've got the wealth creation side and the wealth preservation side, and often property investors, developers, investors in general, they've got an operational business that generates them wealth in some way, shape or form. You know, it generates that cash flow element, and then the cash flow that turns into capital, they then move from the operational business into the property business, and they have the two together. So, you know, the wealth creation side is like flipping houses, having your trading company, doing all that sort of stuff, you know, window cleaning, running shows, whatever it might be. And then that money goes into developing but investing in houses, buy to let, stocks and shares, all that sort of stuff, to preserve your wealth that you've created on the wealth creation side. Yeah. And it's vital to have the two, because either if you have the operational side and not the investing side, then you've just got a shitload of cash that's eroding with obviously inflation, as we all know. And if you've just got the investing side, not the operational side, then let's say you start with 500 grand, over the next 10 years, you're not going to have 500 grand in cash. It's going to be tied up in you know, assets or, you know, whatever it might be. Yeah. But if you've got that operational business that's helping support that from a cash flow perspective, and also gives you a ways to live on, it allows you as an investor to do more deals and also survive over a longer period of time. Dependent, you know, for me and you, that's relevant because we're young and we want to, you know, take on the world sort of thing. Yeah. But, you know, for someone that's probably 60, 70 onwards, maybe it's a little bit different. But we're talking about obviously our circumstances here.
Most definitely, yeah. And I agree. And I only realised, like, I remember when I first bought the first property and I was making like £500 a month profit, and I was like, oh my God, I've uplifted the value by like 30 odd grand. I've took money out of it and I'm still making £500 a month. Like, to me, I was like, that was like half my estate agency wages. So I was like, this is mental. I've just got to keep doing this. So then I kept doing it, and then the rates went up, and it was like, oh my God, you need a cash flowing business. That's simple. That's it. And unfortunately, the moving business wasn't it. It was all right, but it was just eating all the everything I made in that. It just eating all the money. And that's why I like flipping. I think flipping's a great strategy because you can just build pots of cash, and it's great. And it's enjoyable as well because you're making the house nice, like really nice, and I enjoy the process of flipping. And because I know it all, there's plenty of good strategies out there, really is. But I think having a cash flowing business and then to deploy into property is the way, in my opinion. Yeah. That's how I'm going to do it.
I agree, completely agree. So from I suppose the window cleaning perspective, then what's your plans with growing that?
The plan is just to get that to a nice, healthy, you know, maybe 5-10 grand a month, because the profit's really good in it, really good. And then just keep doing property. I enjoy property. I love the process of property. I always have, and I probably always will, to be honest. I love everything about it. I love finding deals. I love doing the refurb.
Are you hands-on with the refurbs then yourself?
No, not really. I was when I say hands-on, I can't even put a screw in a wall, to be honest. But you know, painting and that was me. But I'm trying to stay out of it a bit more now. And I think I've got a really good team now. From the ones I've done, you realise who's an idiot, who's all right, and who's worth using. And I think because I was young, I don't know if this is the case or I'm just being a bit paranoid, but I think because I was young, I remember saying to people like, I'm going to get another one soon, like to a trade. And I think they'd just be like, I don't know if I'm just thinking this in a paranoid way, and they'd be like, yeah, sound. And then they'd still do something to sabotage the relationship. And I was like, I'm going to buy another one now, and I'm probably going to buy another one after that. Like, how don't you understand? Why aren't you keeping a relationship like? But the ones I've got now are amazing, and they are absolutely amazing. So I've got a really good team, so I don't really need to go in there because the people I use are just spot on. I hardly even need the project manager. Just kind of say to them, you know, go in at that time, and I don't need to go and check on them because I know they've been in, because that's how good they are. But that you only get there from a point of doing projects and realizing who's just a clown and who is actually going to do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's all I think you need to be in half decent trade. Like, do what you say you're going to do and be half decent at your job.
Literally. I've been through the same process, kissed a few frogs, just people often talking out their arsehole, promising the world, never delivering. And the ones that have stayed with me, you know, throughout my career from early days are the ones that literally just say, Scott, I'm going to be here Monday. And I know full well they're going to be there Monday.
Yeah, that's all you want.
Literally.
That is all you want. But I've had hell with them, to be honest, with some people. Like, I had a roofer once who just, my own fault. He was asking for material money. I didn't really understand at the time. Give him the money and he was gone. Give him $5,000 and he vanished and I didn't see him again. I seen him again in the end, but you know, like, yeah, it's stressful. But once you've got a good team, it becomes easy then. But again, that comes from hard work and learning who's going to be hard work and whatever. But yeah, but property's the one for me. I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Good. So in terms of what you got on at the minute, then what's that?
So I've got a deal on. I've got one on right now. One we're completing on in a couple of weeks, and then another in legals. One's going to be, to be fair, the next two are flips. I think that's me strategy not going forward, but I think that's my strategy for maybe the next 12 months. Just build a big pot of cash. Because when I done that, I was with the first flip I done, I was very lucky. Like, from being an estate agent, you realise, I think it's 1 in 3 properties fall through. So I was very lucky to have a buyer and she stayed there for 3 months and it was done. Whereas I couldn't imagine being on a bridge. I seen it again in the estate agency. I seen a guy, he was on a bridge, he had a house and he had 4 fall throughs. He had 4 people who just pulled out the deal, and the last one was on exchange day, and he was like, he had to rebridge and stuff like that. And I've seen it, and it is scary. Do you know what I mean? Whether that's a bridge, investors' money, or whatever it is. But flipping, but I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do it because it creates good lumps of cash and stuff like that. And
it's part of the business model. I mean, I'm pretty transparent. I've got a deal at the moment that I'm in a similar situation to that. I mean, we had a buyer back in August, and that buyer is still like trying to buy it. I don't know quite exactly why he hasn't bought it yet. Anyway, it's still on the market, and we've had, you know, viewings and what have you. But we've had to rebridge on that, and I think the lesson I've really learned from it is the fact that if your numbers aren't absolute watertight and the margins aren't there day dot, because I mean, we're still going to make profit from this deal. Obviously the profit went from, you know, 20-25%. It's probably more like 10-15% now. But we've got that buffer there, and it's painful because I'm having to pay we were rolled up interest, we're having to pay it on a service basis now. But that's just the nature of the beast. Some deals go really well, like the £55,000 one. I sold that within 12 months and made, you know, 30-40 grand on it. But then this other one that's causing me a headache because I just can't sell it. It is a quirky plot, comes with a plot of land that we're trying to get houses on. So there's some nuances with it. But we've got that margin there to support these types of things not going to plan, and they don't go to plan sometimes.
Yeah, that's why that's why I originally liked, obviously, the BRR model. You buy it, you know, you can you do the works and refinance it. That's it. You get the money in your bank. But now I think I'm past the point. I think especially as well when you start like doing a trading business and you see, I know you've got to work for that. It's a bit different. Not like you haven't got to work for a deal, but when you see the profits coming in and then you realise, okay, I'm putting maybe 60, 70, 80 grand of hard earned cash into a property that's giving me 300 quid a month. Yeah, that's great. You're getting the money back out, but you've got to think of the time you're putting into it. Especially like some of the deals I'm doing, the conveyancing's taking months and months and months. So like, I think you've got to factor all that in. It's all good to go, oh, we've got a deal, we're going to pull all the money out of it. And by the way, a deal, pulling all the money out of it is incredible, by the way. Like, it's absolutely incredible. But what I'm trying to say is 70 grand to get 300 quid back a month doesn't sit right with me at the moment. Once you see what like a business can make and stuff like that, you start to think, is that really worth it? Really? That's my opinion, but still, I'll probably always still buy them, to be fair. So that's just me.
He's just telling everyone that, so there's more for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's understanding, because there's so many ways to skin a cat. Business, property, whatever it might be. There's so many different ways to look at it. And I think it's important for people to understand that what fits for you might and what fits for me.
Exactly.
You and I have probably got different approaches when it comes to investing. I don't buy and hold anything anymore. I used to have HMOs. I don't enjoy the tenant process side of things. I just think operationally it's a nightmare. So for me, I prefer to buy and sell. Which is why obviously we sell the property developer show, because that's where, what I'm doing. But some people do that as well as invest in buy-to-lets, such as yourself, and they're happy to sort of do that. And I have conversations with people that are like, why would you sell that asset? It's only going to go up in value, think of the long-term income. But my argument is, well, I crystallize my profit there and then. If the market goes left, right, down, up and round or whatever, it makes no difference to me because I've got my profit out of it already. So, but I think it's important for people to listen to these types of podcasts and go, right, well, what Callum said in that episode, I can agree with that. And then they might not watch another episode with someone else and think, actually, no, that's not me. And it's picking the bits that you think, right, some people might not necessarily like the idea of having a business as well as investing. They might just think, sod that, I just want to invest. And it's just understanding where that sits with people and creating a strategy that works for you as a
100%,
as a guest or as a listener or whoever.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that 100%. I always have conversations with my brother who's in a complete different situation to me. And we argue about things and I'm like, yeah, but you're in that position, I'm in this position. So exactly, I completely agree, mate. I think people are in different positions. Don't listen to fucking me. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm just speaking what I need to be doing. That's what I'm speaking about. And I'm not speaking, everyone's situation is absolutely different. So they need to work out for themselves what's right for them. And that's, sit down, go to a coffee shop and just work out what you need to do. That's what I do all the time, and just work out what you need to do and what's what. And like you say, everyone's situation is completely different. So
no, definitely. And if you are like 18, 19, 20, then probably the way that, well, both you and I have done it is probably the right way to, if you want to, get to where we've got to, then you take bits of that and pull it
100%.
out. But if you're, 50 years old, then you don't want to be going working for an estate agent.
Exactly.
Well, you might do, I don't know, but I doubt very much, on peanuts.
That's it.
And, probably not enjoying life too much.
Yeah, that's it. And that's exactly it, mate. And I loved the estate agency, and I would say, again, I'm not telling anyone what to do, but I'm glad I picked that route. I'm glad I went into a estate agency, learned what I did, earned a crap wage. But if I always think to myself, I earned a crap wage in there when the market boomed, sort of post-COVID sort of thing, the commission was amazing and I did earn decent money. But I always say to myself, I always kind of add the property I bought and the income. I kind of add that onto my wages and think, if I didn't have that job, I would have never got them properties. So I kind of see that as the wage as well, really, and the learnings and stuff like that. But it is hard to see. And like you say, if you're not 17, 18 and you can't live at home and you can't, you might, everyone's situation is different, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to get across to the listeners today. And it's just understanding, like what fits for you.
100%.
Yeah. Good stuff. So in terms of like the property journey then, next 5 years, what does that sort of look like for Callum?
I think I'll do flips, to be honest. I'm terrible because I'm saying go sit in a coffee shop and work out your life, but I haven't even done it myself. Like I'm kind of just, I kind of buy a deal on something that I like. I like doing the direct to vendor strategy. I enjoy that. I like doing things that I enjoy. That's my thing. So if something works, and I'm not going to do something if I don't enjoy it. That's how my outlook is now. It's never been that way, by the way. Like I say, I'm working 12 hours in the factory every weekend and stuff like that.
But I think you knew that was going to lead to where you are now, though.
Yeah.
In a way.
100%. It's never been that way, but now how I see it is, if I don't like doing it, why am I doing it? But in the next 5 years, I think flips. I'm starting to like toy with the idea. I like flips a lot more. You can't go wrong with BRR, to be fair. Even though I said the 300 quid, even though I said that before, but property, I don't know. I want to stay in property, whatever way it is. It might change. I don't think it will, because I like the process of it. I like everything about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I'm of the same sort of mindset. I mean, I've probably only really tied down what my strategy is over the last probably 12, 18 months. Obviously, I had a massive change around with selling a business, but I was early on, I was like HMOs, buy and hold, long term. Whereas now I'm just that enjoyment piece. I don't enjoy the tenant side of things.
Yeah.
So I just think, what's the point in me doing it? Because it's only ever caused me headaches. You never get a phone call from your letting agent to say, your tenant's paid more rent this month. It's always the fucking toilet's gone or a fucking light bulb needs changing. Some bollocks. So it just doesn't. I would much rather put that effort into the operational business than into an investment business. Dealing with trades, finding deals, putting deals together, financing them. I love all that sort of stuff. So that's the bit that I'm focusing on. Maybe I'll go into commercial one day because I feel that's a lot less intense in terms of the management side. But right now I'm enjoying the property development stuff. So I couldn't agree more with doing what you enjoy.
That's it, most definitely. It made me laugh there about the lettings thing. I've got like quite a good relationship with my letting agents, and they called the other day. I was like, and it was bad news. I was like, do you ever actually call with fucking good news? It's always something bad. But I like business as well. Like business and like I enjoy that. I enjoy trying to grow businesses. Might not be great at it, but I enjoy it. Like I enjoy trying to find niches and certain things, and I really, really enjoy that. So maybe a property business on the cards potentially, outside the sort of just buying and stuff. But we'll see. Again, I'm not rushing into anything anymore, which I've been a sucker for, which I think can sting you massively. You can learn a lot from it, but you need to just be careful, don't you?
Yeah.
You need to be careful.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to plug episode 6, which is on about property service businesses and some of the headaches that go with that. So if anyone's looking to get into property service-based businesses, go and check that episode out.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to have a look at that one.
No, good stuff. So in terms of, I suppose, going back to the younger Calum, what 3 key bits of advice would you give to your younger self?
To my younger self, I just say keep doing what you're doing. Again, I'm happy with what I've done, but you always want more, don't you? Mm-hmm. When you're like me and you or whoever, you always want more. So it just comes with it, I suppose. So just keep doing what you're doing. But I'd say to anyone else, I think get yourself a mentor. If you're young, get yourself a mentor. And I've never paid for mentorship. I don't mean going and spending, 15, 20 grand on some fella or woman who said he's done it all, but just like get yourself a mentor, whether that be maybe your dad or, your uncle's a businessman, or go and speak to them. And like my brother and my dad drilled into my head young, like work for yourself. And I think that just set me up to be hardworking and think of things with like a business mind constantly. Mm-hmm. Maybe curse me in some ways, but I think get yourself a mentor. That's what I'd say. I think I wish I spoke to more people who were in and put myself in different circles. Another thing, a big advice to myself is put myself out there more. Like I only started my podcast and started putting my face on social media in maybe November time. And since then, the opportunities I've had from that are absolutely incredible. And I was scared, to be honest. I was scared to put myself out there. I don't know why, because everything, these people were doing on social media, I was doing, but I was scared to showcase it for some weird reason. Don't know why. I'm not too sure. Maybe some childhood trauma or something. But not sure why, but I never did. And I wish I'd done that earlier. Like you see these younger people now, younger lads, younger girls in property, and they're on the networking and stuff like that. And they're like 16, 17, 18, dead young. If I was that age now, I'd be leaning into that, because I see some of these people and they're getting mentored for free probably by like big players in the game, or, proper business people who are probably just giving them some real business advice. And I say to it, I've got, again, similar to what you said before, when I had the removals, there was a younger lad that worked for us. And I wasn't really on the vans, but sometimes I end up leaving the estate agency to help out on the business more, because at the end of the day, it was my business. So we had this lad, and he came, and he was like, he must have been 17 or 18 at the time, just left school, just left sixth form or whatever. I remember he came in, and I was speaking to him, and he got in the van, and he started speaking about property and crypto, and I was just like, this kid is sick. This kid is me, like 18, 17. So I was like, I love him. So I still speak. He's a good mate now. He's like a really good mate, and I speak to him all the time. And he just had that mindset. And I've kind of lost my train of thought where we're going with this. But anyway, he was a sick guy. And
3 bits of advice.
I've lost my train of thought completely.
Do you know what, mate? I think to overview what you've said, because it is all of value. Basically, around the piece of leaning into your age, finding a mentor.
Got it. I'm on it. So basically, I've been saying to him, you need to get yourself on social media and showcase yourself. He's 19, 20. He's still young. Showcase, just go into networking events or go in whatever you're doing, and people will be willing to help because you are so young. So that's the advice I'd give to my younger self and to anyone. If you're young, put yourself out there. It's fucking scary. Like, it is scary.
Yeah. And you know what? Not everyone's going to like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Get over that. That. But the ones that do, probably the reality of it is, if you weren't doing Hustling With Houses and you weren't on social media, we probably wouldn't be sat here having this conversation.
Exactly. That's completely it.
And that's the good side of putting yourself out there. And there's some shit that comes with it, but the majority of the good stuff that comes out of it, like anything, if you do and if you don't, people are always going to have something to say, and you might as well do, because people are going to, or it's going to create the opportunity, which is obviously what we were alluding to
100%.
earlier on. And I think, it's definitely interesting that the younger people I see on social media now, and the, I suppose, future that they've got. I mean, I'm 27. I wasn't brought into the social media age. It kind of happened as I was getting a bit older, and I was like, obviously I said Googling how to become a millionaire. I didn't know what all these, social media gurus were. I had to like go out and find people that were actually successful in business. I was really fortunate that the guy I worked for was 26, 27 at the time, learned a shitload from him. He probably thought the same as what we think of, obviously, our apprentices and younger. And it's that generational thing. And I suppose for us, you probably agree with this. I wouldn't be doing anything else on planet Earth, and God knows what I would be doing if I'm not doing what I'm doing now. It kind of scares me, the thought, if I hadn't found business and property as such. But I think if you've got that passion for property and business, fucking run after it.
100%. And like you say, people are like, when I remember he got in the van, started speaking about crypto, started speaking about property, and I was like, oh my God, let's go for the coffee. So after work, went for the coffee, and I'm just chatting, and I'm just giving him everything that I know. Like, I'm not saying I know everything, but you know what I mean? All the information I had in my head, I was just telling him. And he was like, oh my God, yeah, and whatever. But people, what I'm trying to say is, people are willing to, if they see you're ambitious, you're young, they just want to feed you information, because it probably feeds their ego as well, probably feed my ego to be like, oh, I know this, and telling them.
I think it's satisfaction, isn't it? Of being able to pay that forward. You've got all this shit in your head that, is valuable in some way, and you're like, who do I give this to?
Exactly,
You can have it.
Yeah.
Or come on the podcast and talk about it here,
That's it.
And that's probably why people do come on the podcast, because they want to share their journey, share their lessons, all that sort of stuff.
100%. And like you say about the opportunity thing, I didn't even think about that, but the reason I am here is because of the, putting myself out there. Like 6-7 months ago, the thought of me even going on a podcast, never mind creating my own or going on a podcast, was just like, fucking hell, fuck that. but now it's just natural, and I think it's an amazing way to connect with people, network with people. I'm not a fan of like your standard networking events, you know what I mean? Going to a room and like force speaking to people. I'd rather jump on a podcast and have a chat, and then, if we hit it off, let's go for a scran or some food after and whatever. I think that's a better way to do it personally. And content is a great way to network with people as well. Putting stuff out there, people will resonate with it. Again, people might not, but they're connecting with you. That's what I think personally.
I agree. Spot on. Perfect. Well, I think that rounds the episode off quite nicely. I think there's a lot we can unpick and probably carry on. I think probably need part 2, maybe on Hustling With
Most definitely.
But obviously, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Absolute pleasure. I love coming on to podcast, and this is a great little setup you've got, and I absolutely loved it. So thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Thank you. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they go about doing that?
Instagram, Hustlin With Houses. Find me there.
Perfect. Just Hustling on Instagram. Anywhere else?
Yeah, Hustlin With Houses. I am on Facebook, but just Hustlin With Houses, Instagram, and the podcast Hustlin With Houses, and you can catch me there. Most definitely.
Happy days.
Thanks so much, mate, honestly.
No worries. Thanks, Callum. And thanks for listeners today. Again, if you're listening on audio version, please do leave a review. It does help the podcast. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe and like, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care. Goodbye.